Do you think you could have made Brown Girl Begins 10 years ago?
Absolutely not. I tried to make Brown Girl Begins 10 years ago. I tried to make Brown Girl Begins 15 years ago. And the answer always was, we're not really sure that there's a market for black sci-fi. That would be the first response. We're not really sure there's a market for a young black woman to be the protagonist. And we're not really sure you, as a black woman director, have enough credits or have enough experience to helm a sci-fi. So those were the three obstacles that were placed in front of me consistently.
And they're saying we don't see you or that character in our future.
That's what it sounds like. That's what it feels like to me. We don't see you. The future is not you. The future is not your story. And the future is not black sci-fi. So if we don't exist in the future, where do we exist? You know, only in the past. And it felt like if I had chosen to do a slave narrative, that might have been an easier path to do. Slave narratives are, you know, we get that you need to tell your history and we get that you need to talk about where you were, but to put forward something where black people exist in the future, I think it feels threatening and alienating. Maybe alien.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, but elements of Brown Girl Begins, I think you could have told perhaps in the present. I could see how a tale exploring this girl believing in herself, using elements of Caribbean spirituality and culture. So why jump ahead? What was it that excited you or compelled you to take us, and we look at this beautiful skyline behind you, to go forward into the future?
Well, I think that I didn't grow up with any images of us, meaning black women in the future. I never saw that. I saw one kiss from on Star Trek. That was the only sort of, I was like, she exists in the future. You know, she exists in the future. Maybe we do too. So I thought it was really important to see me, to see other people who look like me in the future. There was that, and also I love sci-fi.
Yeah.
I love dystopia. I love the idea that there's a world beyond what we're seeing and that we can kind of push it to the extremes. So this beautiful skyline of Toronto is in the film, and we didn't even really change it that much. We just kind of dazzled the lights a little bit more, because the future looks like, for us in the film, the future looks like dazzling lights and electricity. And then the opposite of that is where young Tijan is living, which is no water, no electricity, very little political governance, which is just across this water on an island.
So your vision of the future is not necessarily a positive one.
I would say my vision of the future is extremely positive, because what I'm showing is pretty much what we see right now. There's a lot of segregation going on between class, especially what's happening south of the border. There are walls being talked about. There's a wall actually being put up. There's a wall in Toronto. All of that is dystopian, not hopeful. But what I do think is hopeful is seeing a young black woman rise out of this condition and lead her people into a positive future.
We live in an increasingly diverse society. How is it that an entire culture has been left out of this influential genre?
You know, I love this question about how have we been left out, because I don't know the answer. I don't know a simple answer to that, except to say that we have been shown images and stories that put us in a certain category. And I think because I'm in the arts and because I'm in media, I am so sensitive to those images that if there's none that are kind of pushed forward to say, maybe this might be interesting, maybe this might be inspiring, maybe this might be commercial, maybe this might be mainstream, I don't know that the gatekeepers see it that way.
And for you, when you were kind of just moving forward, I'm just going to make this thing one way or another, it must have been exciting when you start hearing the rumblings of a little movie called Black Panther and A Wrinkle in Time, and start to think, you're not alone in this desire to see yourself in this context.
Yeah, never in a million years when I'm making Brown Girl Begins on this shoestring budget did I think when it was actually coming out that we would be beside Black Panther and A Wrinkle in Time, that we would be in the company of other black sci-fi. To me, that's, you know, is it hard to see dystopia? Is it hard to see challenges? Yes, but then you've got 3 films where black people are actually powerful and strong and leaders.
Your producer was telling us the movie is going to open at the Dundas Cinema in Toronto.
Yeah.
That you could actually be on the marquee, sandwiched between Black Panther and A Wrinkle in Time.
Yeah, I mean that's big.
It's
And a Canadian film,
Yeah.
like a Canadian Caribbean sci-fi. It's the first Canadian Caribbean sci-fi ever.
Talk to me about your actress. She's so compelling. Where did you find her?
Yeah, Muna Traore, she's our lead actress. She's a gem. So she's half African and half Caribbean, and as soon as she walked into the audition, we were like, because she's tall, she's gorgeous, she's dark skinned. That was really, really important to me, to have a lead actress that represents another diversity, another sort of shade of beauty.
How hard is it to find a cinematographer with the experience to shoot and light her properly?
Yeah. Let me tell you, when I was an actress, and this was like maybe 15 years ago, I remember makeup artists putting lighter and lighter and lighter makeup on me.
Trying to change you.
Yeah, trying to change me so they could light me. I remember sort of, making my lips smaller and then blasting light, that has changed. Thank goodness that has changed. Our DP, Mark Ferran, beautiful. All the skin tones are gorgeous. There's none of that like where, you put like this white light in front of their faces. I think a lot of DPs now go, oh right, amber tones, let's light for different colors of skin. I feel like there's been some kind of shift with that.
So how do you feel about this moment in time now in terms of how Brown Girl Begins is part of, would you call it a movement? Like there's something, it feels like something's happening.
Yeah, I mean, when we were, every indie film has a t-shirt, right? So when we were crowdfunding, our t-shirt was Brown Girl Movement. And now our t-shirt is this, the future is here, the future is her. And I think the reason we use that tagline is there is a movement happening right now, with #MeToo, there's time is up, there's an idea that maybe women's time has come, and for me, women of color's time has come. So I would say there is a movement underneath the film, that there's a support that's happening that goes beyond just having a film. And in fact, I was thinking about this today. A million years ago, I was in a film called Rude, and at that time in the 90s, there was a renaissance going on, or sort of maybe not even a renaissance, space made for black films like Spike Lee and John Singleton and Clement Virgo, and an idea that it was okay for black film to actually represent our real lives. And now, fast forward in 2018, with these black sci-fi movies, now we're allowed to be represented in the future. So I sort of feel like now there's a space made in a different way, Back
when you were in the trenches trying to make this happen, and getting those no's and getting that door closed in your face. I mean, would you describe that reaction as racist? Did you feel like...
Absolutely, it's racist. Absolutely. There's no... yes. I mean, if there's a story that's a coming-of-age story about a young woman who then comes into her power, that's a classic structure. That's not, oh my God, I don't know, I've never heard of this. This is a coming-of-age story. How many Canadian films are coming-of-age stories? How many films are about the young boy growing up in Muskoka? I love those films.
Right.
But how many of those? So this structure is not that different to me in terms of a young coming-of-age Canadian experience, except that it's futuristic and it's black. So, and she's a woman.
How do you feel about the future now after going through this experience?
I don't think I could feel any other way about the future except as a relentless optimist. Because if I didn't feel that way, I would not make films. Yeah, I have to be. I think any filmmaker actually has to be a relentless optimist, because almost every filmmaker experiences a no. And then I think women of color experience no. And so I think you have to be a relentless optimist to continue on. So I'm positive about the future. I have to be.